If you are planning to spend $80,000, $100,000, or $130,000 on a camper van in 2026, there is a shift happening across this market that you need to understand before you sign anything. Buyers who spent years saving for their dream camper van, who did the research, visited the dealerships, and committed to a specific vehicle, are walking away from full-size Class B camper vans and buying something completely different. Not because the lifestyle failed them, because the math did. This video covers the 8 vehicle categories serious buyers are switching to in 2026, what is driving the shift, and what it means for the purchase you are currently planning. The list runs from the least surprising alternative to the single category that has caught the entire market off guard. The number 1 pick is not what most buyers in this space expected, and it may change the decision you thought you had already made. Why they're leaving. Before the vehicles, you need to understand what is actually driving this transition, because the industry explanation you will hear at a dealership is incomplete. The explanation you will hear is fuel costs. That is real, but it is a fraction of the story. The real driver is total cost of ownership versus actual usage, and the buyers leaving the full-size Class B market have started doing that math honestly. Here is what the numbers look like in 2026. A new Winnebago Solus 59P is currently listing at $105,000 to $130,000 after dealer discount. That same Solus, purchased new in 2022 at peak pandemic pricing, is sitting on today's used market at $68,000 to $85,000. That is a depreciation hit of $20,000 to $40,000 absorbed by the first buyer in 3 years of ownership, before a single maintenance bill, before fuel, before storage. A new Plateau TS runs $165,000 to $190,000 at current market. A 2021 Plateau TS on the used market is listing at $115,000 to $137,000. The buyers doing that arithmetic honestly are asking one question: how many days per year will I actually use this vehicle? Not the aspirational number, the realistic one. And for a growing segment of serious buyers, the answer to that question is producing a number that does not justify the ownership cost, which is why they are looking elsewhere. Here's what they are finding. The list. Category 8, the small SUV micro camper. Honda CR-V, Toyota RAV4, Ford Escape, set up for lightweight travel. This is the entry point on the list, and the most honest starting position for a buyer who is not certain the lifestyle matches their actual travel pattern. A mechanically solid used RAV4 or CR-V runs $14,000 to $22,000 at current market. Fuel economy sits between 28 and 35 miles per gallon. The rear seats fold flat and accommodate a sleeping platform for a one-person or a couple willing to travel lighter than a full campervan setup. This is not a luxury solution, and it is not positioned as one. It is the category buyers are choosing when they want to test the lifestyle against reality before committing 6 figures to a dedicated platform. The buyers who land here and find the lifestyle works are the ones who eventually move up the list. The ones who find that 60 or 90 days of annual travel is their actual ceiling, not the 1,800 days they planned when they were researching Class Bs, are the ones who have quietly concluded that the small SUV was the right call all along. Category 7, the DIY van conversion. Ford Transit cargo van, Ram ProMaster, Mercedes Sprinter, owner converted rather than factory built. The buyers showing up in this category in 2026 aren't the van build Instagram crowd. They're the cost-conscious buyers who have looked at the factory Class B price point and concluded that the manufacturer markup does not survive scrutiny. A used high-roof Ford Transit cargo van in the 2019 to 2022 range with reasonable miles runs around $22,000 to $32,000 at current market. A competent owner conversion, bed platform, insulation, electrical, ventilation, basic storage adds $6,000 to $14,000 in materials, depending on how far the build goes. The all-in cost on a well-executed DIY conversion lands significantly below a factory Class B. The trade is build time and mechanical comfort. Buyers who are not prepared to invest both are not the right fit for this category. But the buyers who are have noticed something the factory Class B market does not want them to notice. The used market on a clean DIY conversion in a desirable platform holds value in ways that factory depreciation curves do not favor the new buyer. Category 5. The Ram ProMaster. Factory spec or lightly modified, purchased used. The ProMaster has emerged as a specific alternative for buyers who want full-size van interior volume without the Sprinter's maintenance cost exposure or the Transit's current market premium. The front-wheel drive layout is the mechanical feature that matters most here. It lowers the floor height compared to rear-wheel drive platforms, which produces more usable standing headroom than any other full-size cargo van at a comparable price point. Used ProMasters from 2018 to 2022 are currently listing in the $20,000 to $32,000 range, depending on year and mileage. The reliability reputation relative to the Transit and Sprinter is the legitimate concern, and buyers choosing this category have weighed that against the acquisition cost gap and decided the savings justify the trade. Whether that calculation holds over a 5-year ownership window is the open question. The buyers currently in it are still building the answer. Category 4. The Ford Transit. Used, high roof, 2018 to 2022 production years. The Transit sits at the center of this market because it occupies this market. Not the cheapest option, not the most expensive, and with the widest parts and service network of any full-size van on American roads. The used Transit market has softened from its pandemic peak. Buyers who overpaid in 2021 and 2022 are exiting, and the inventory coming off those exits is pricing at levels that make the platform genuinely competitive against a new Class B. A clean, used, high-roof Transit in a 2019 to 2021 range with 60,000 to 90,000 miles is currently available in the $26,000 to $36,000 range. A factory Winnebago Solus on the same dealer lot runs $105,000 to $130,000 new. The buyer doing that math honestly is asking what the $70,000 to $100,000 gap in acquisition cost actually buys them. For a growing number of buyers in 2026, the answer is not justifying the difference. Category 4. The Used Mercedes Sprinter. Pre-2020 production years, purchased with documented service history in pre-purchase inspection. The Sprinter sits at a complicated position on this list because it is the platform most serious buyers in this space start by wanting, and also the platform with the most documented maintenance cost exposure when purchased used without full service records. The buyers choosing a used Sprinter in 2026 are not doing it casually. The filter that the experienced buyer community has settled on is specific. Pre-2020 production year, complete documented service history, and inspection by a Sprinter-certified mechanic before any deposit changes hands. Used Sprinters meeting that filter are currently listing in the $32,000 to $52,000 range. The buyers paying that price are betting that the brand recognition, the resale market depth, and the interior quality of the Sprinter platform justify the acquisition cost and the higher maintenance exposure compared to the Transit alternatives. That bet has paid off for buyers who executed the purchase correctly. It has cost the ones who skipped the specialist inspection considerably more than they budgeted. Category 3. The Minivan Camper. Toyota Sienna Hybrid, Honda Odyssey, rear seats removed, sleep platform installed. This is where the list starts to produce a reaction in buyers who have not run the numbers, and the numbers are worth taking seriously before you dismiss the vehicle. A Toyota Sienna with the rear seats removed produces approximately 8 feet of interior length by 4 feet of width. That is a sleeping and living footprint that is functionally comparable to the interior of a converted cargo van. The Sienna Hybrid adds 35 to 36 miles per gallon on top of that interior space, and used Sienna pricing in the 2018 to 2022 range currently sits between $20,000 and $32,000, a fraction of the new Class B acquisition cost. The mechanical reliability case for the Toyota platform past 250,000 miles is well documented. The hybrid battery replacement concern on older examples is real, but replacement cost on current aftermarket packs has come down substantially from what it was 5 years ago. The framing the buyer community has landed on for this category is direct. The minivan delivers the majority of the interior functionality of a full-size van at a fraction of the acquisition cost, with none of the depreciation exposure a new Class B carries, and with a visual profile that draws zero attention in any parking situation. The buyers choosing this category are not compromised buyers. They are buyers who ran the ownership math on a new Class B, ran it on a used Sienna, compared the two outputs, and made a decision that was not driven by the vehicle's image. Category 2. The Compact Class B, Winnebago Solis Pocket, Pleasureway Tofino. The Compact Class B is the most strategically interesting position on this list for buyers who need the factory build quality and resale profile of a purpose-built campervan, but have concluded that the full-size platform carries more financial exposure than their usage pattern justifies. The Solis Pocket is built on the Ram ProMaster chassis and measures under 18 feet in overall length. Used 2022 and 2023 Solis Pockets are currently available at $69,000 to $79,000, a meaningful discount from the current new price of roughly $85,000 to $103,000, depending on configuration and dealer. The honest constraint is interior volume. Two people doing extended travel in a Solis Pocket need to have spent real time in one before buying. The buyers who do that test and confirm the space works for their specific pattern have found a vehicle that carries the factory warranty backing, the dealer service network, and the resale market recognition that a DIY conversion or a minivan build cannot match, at a price point that is easier to justify than a full-size Class B. Category 1. The used full-size Class B campervan, purchased 2 to 3 years into depreciation. This is the category that has genuinely changed how the most experienced buyers in this market are approaching the decision, and it is not a new vehicle type at all. It is a timing and purchase strategy. The depreciation on a factory Class B campervan hits hardest in the first 2 to 3 years of ownership. The data in this market right now shows exactly what that looks like. A Winnebago Solis that left a dealer at $120,000 new in 2022 is sitting on today's used market at $68,000 to $85,000. The first buyer absorbed the depreciation curve. The second buyer acquires the same vehicle with the same factory build and the same brand recognition and the same resale market depth at a fraction of what the first buyer paid. A Pleasureway Plateau TS that retailed at $165,000 new in 2021 is appearing used today at $115,000 to $137,000. The first buyer paid for the depreciation curve. The second buyer avoids it. The mechanical risk on a used purchase at this price point is real, and a pre-purchase inspection by a specialist mechanic is not optional. It is the cost of doing this correctly. But the buyers executing this strategy have concluded that the acquisition cost and the mechanical risk of the first 30,000 miles already being on the vehicle are substantially outweighed by the acquisition cost savings versus buying new. The reason this sits at number 1 is not that it is a surprising vehicle category. It is that it is the most counterintuitive insight in this market right now. The best campervan to buy in 2026 may not be a new one. It may be the one the first buyer paid to educate themselves on. Those 8 categories represent the full shift that has emerged across the serious buyer community in 2026. Small SUV microcampers for buyers testing the lifestyle before committing. DIY transit or ProMaster conversions for buyers optimizing on acquisition cost with the build skills to execute. Used ProMasters and transits for buyers who have run the platform math. Used sprinters with the right purchase filter for buyers who want the platform and are willing to do the inspection work. Minivan campers for buyers who ran the ownership comparison honestly. Compact Class Bs for buyers who need factory quality at a smaller footprint. And used full-size Class B campervans purchased 2 to 3 years into depreciation for buyers who have decided that someone else's first few years of ownership cost is worth letting them absorb. Every category on this list represents a buyer who did the calculation the dealership does not benefit from you completing clearly. The purchase you were planning deserves that calculation before the paperwork is signed, not after. If you are currently researching a campervan purchase, or if you already own one and the ownership math has started to feel wrong, subscribe. This channel exists to cover the financial decisions that manufacturers, dealers, and the lifestyle media have a direct financial interest in you not understanding before you buy. The buyers who avoided the expensive mistakes ran the numbers before they signed, not after.